So, yesterday we just seen how to debug the scripts, right? Not completely we have seen, but we have seen the basic commands. What is the use of step into, and what is the use of step out, and what is the use of step over commands. And also we have seen something called watch tab. You know what is the use of watch tab? Let me brief about that and just let us recall what exactly we have discussed. When you say step into here, so it will execute line by line. At a time only one line will be executed, okay, as soon as you press on step into. And if the line is a function call, you know, whatever the line that you are executing, if that line contains a function call, cursor will be jumped inside the function. It will take the cursor into the function. Function also will be debugged line by line again. That's what step into. And step out means, you know, if the cursor is inside the function and if you want to come out of the function without debugging, then you can press step out. Okay, so step out will be used to come out of the function without debugging that function, right? But step out will work only when the cursor is inside the function. When the cursor is outside the function, it will not work. Step over means, step over is very similar to step into. It also executes line by line, but if there is any function call at any line, then step over will skip the function from debugging and it will execute the function as a single line and it will move to the next line. Okay, so the cursor will not go inside the function. That is the main difference between step into and step over. And also, when you are debugging from the first line, if you want to start debugging from first line of the script, then you have to start with the step into. You cannot start debugging from step over directly. Okay, if you are debugging from first line onwards. This is what we have discussed yesterday, right? So today what we'll do is we will discuss about run modes. Okay, we'll discuss about run modes that whatever available. Okay, so there are two types of run modes. One type contains normal or fast mode. Another one is we have something called maintenance and update run modes. Okay, we will see both of them. What is normal mode and what is fast mode, and what is update run mode and what is maintenance run mode. Okay, so we will see all. Right. I just opened. I have opened one of the script here. This contains only VB script, does not contain any objects. Let it be. We don't need any objects and all to understand run mode, fast mode, and normal mode. Okay, so just let the script get open. Fine, it's open. Okay, now to select fast mode or normal mode, to execute, these are execution modes. Go to tools, options, under options, go to GUI testing and test runs. Okay, let me repeat that. To select the mode of execution, go to tools, options, GUI testing in the options and in the test runs. Then you will get options like normal mode and fast mode here. One can be selected. And remember, there is a precondition here. If you want to execute the scripts in normal mode, there is something called Microsoft Script Debugger. When you install UFT, that gets automatically installed. Or sometimes it may not install when you are not connected to the internet. While installing the tool, it may not download that. Okay, so it will at the end of the installation you may get some error saying that failed to download script debugger, download and install. But still tool will work fine. But if you want to run the script in normal mode, that script debugger must have been installed in the system. Something called Microsoft Script Debugger. If the Microsoft Script Debugger is not installed in the system, then you cannot execute the scripts in normal mode. But you can execute the scripts in fast mode. So to execute the scripts in normal mode, precondition is script debugger has to be installed. Okay. Next, what's the difference between normal mode and fast mode? Okay, so what I am doing now is first I am selecting fast mode. Just understand by observing it. Okay, then I will give you the detailed definition of both. What is the option I have selected here? Fast mode. Click on OK. So I selected fast mode to execute and then click on run. So when you click on run here, script gets executed. Fine. Okay, so script got executed. That is okay. Next, what I am doing is I am selecting normal mode. Any observation you made? What is that? Earlier that yellow cursor was not displayed. Now the yellow cursor is being displayed. What is that yellow cursor there, or what is that yellow line? That line indicates that, or that yellow cursor indicates that which line is being executed currently. That is one of the difference between running the script in normal mode and fast mode. So when you execute the script in normal mode, okay, when you execute the scripts in normal mode, it will display yellow cursor for every line, whatever the line is being executed, to indicate which line is being executed currently. But when you execute the script in fast mode, yellow cursor will not be displayed, so that you will not be able to observe which line is being executed currently. Okay, that is one difference between normal mode and fast mode. So you can say that. So normal mode, an yellow cursor will be displayed to indicate which line is being executed currently. In fast mode, we don't get the yellow line. Okay, so that it will be little difficult for us to understand which line is being executed currently. So one of the difference between normal mode and fast mode. Next, another difference between normal mode and fast mode is, I am doing one more setting here. Just observe. Tools, options, test runs. I am going to the mode selection, and what is the option that I have selected here? Normal mode. Then what I am doing is 1500 milliseconds I am giving here. What is that? Delay each step execution by some milliseconds. 1500 milliseconds, nothing but 1.5 second. Did you observe anything? Execution has become little slow, and for every step whatever it is executing, it is delaying for some time, right, between every step. So you will get this option when you are running the script in normal mode. So whenever you want to debug the scripts, you can go with step into, step over, all those commands, or other option what you can do is execute your script in normal mode and have the delay time between each and every step, so that every step that you can observe how the step is being executed and then what is coming from that particular step. This is normal mode. Okay, but when you are running in fast mode, you will not get this option to delay the execution, to have delay time in between the steps. You won't get this option when you are running in fast mode. So one difference between fast mode and normal mode is, normal mode gives the yellow cursor, fast mode will not give that. And when you run the script in normal mode, when you select normal mode, we get one option to delay between each and every step execution, delay the execution between every step. Okay, so this is one of the difference between normal mode and fast mode. So when your scripts, when you are still in debugging mode, once you have written the scripts and you are still in verification mode, that means you still have to verify the scripts whether they are working or not. You can run the script in normal mode and then make the observation. But when you are doing the execution for releases, That means we need to track the results and all. Once the scripts are working, normally we run in fast mode. Okay. So this is the main difference between normal mode and fast mode. Okay, next. There are two more run modes called update run mode and maintenance run mode. Okay, what's the difference between update run mode and fast mode? Maintenance run mode. Okay, then not this script, we need to open another script because we need the objects there. So let me do one thing. Let us write some script freshly here. Then I'll just create a new test. Here I'm just giving the test name as run modes. And let me add the objects. Then quickly we will write, say demo.orangehrmlive.com. Before this, before we add the objects to the repository, one thing that we do is go to the object identification window and select the properties for each and every object. So don't use smart identification. For browser I am using a creation time, and for frame I am using a name, or for frame title is the best property here. And for image object use some properties, link use text and HTML tag. For page no property required, and this for web button use HTML tag, name and type. Then for web checkbox use HTML tag, name and type. For web edit use HTML tag, name, or you can give any other ID. I am using HTML ID, then name, and I don't need type also. So some properties that you can select here. So disable smart identification. So by default for all web applications smart identification will be enabled, and then you need to disable that smart identification. So first you do the object identification settings here. Okay, then you add the objects to the repository. I'm adding the objects to the repository. Right. Now write the script here. Say browser dot page dot web edit. Then say username dot set. You can say it as admin, or instead of typing everything, then you can just do the drag and drop. Okay, and then you click on login button. Right. So before that you say system util dot run. You can say chrome.exe or any other browser you can give. Then you can say http enterprise.demo.orangehrmlive.com. Right, this is the URL. Right, so let me close this and run this. Let us write some more scripts here. One more functionality. Script for one more functionality will write. So let it get executed. So it entered username, and then it should enter password, and then click on login button. That's okay. So which option we are selecting here? So that's the reason there was some delay between the steps. Okay, so next let us do one thing, and let's create one employee here. So let me add the objects to the repository again. So click on PAM link, and it is adding underscore page 2, right? Okay, it's adding even though it's the same page, it's adding page underscore 2. The reason why it is adding, you have to do one more setting here. The setting is go to tools, options, under GUI testing, under where there is something called page or frame options. Let me repeat again. Tools, options, and GUI testing, under where page or frame options. There are some options, something called create a new page object. So it's creating new page object. Earlier one orange HRM it's created, then orange HRM underscore 2 it is created. One more page object created. These objects are adding for the page object underscore 2. The reason why it is adding, even though properties are not changed for the page, still why it is adding, because this option, you can set different URL or change in the data transfer. Whenever a page whatever I have opened gets a different URL than a previous page, then when I add the object under that page, you create one new page object in the repository and add new objects to the new page. But when you select first option, then for every navigation that you are doing, for one navigation, one page object you create. Normally, some people do this option every page. So there is something called page level framework. Okay, so something called page level. So for one page, they will create some functions. They will add the objects. Objects and all will be categorized by page. Okay. But if you select second option here, different test object descriptions, then if no matter whatever the page you navigated to, okay, if the properties in the repository for the page object are different from the page which is opened, it creates a new page object. If new page object gets different properties than the existing page object properties, it creates new. Or if the new page object properties are matching with the existing page properties in the repository, then it will not create new page object. What it will do? It will just start using the existing page object only. So which I mean to say that in the repository there is orange HRM page already created, right? Then now if I go to the application now, if I add any object under new page, whatever the new page displayed, if I add any object in the new page, first it will take the page object. See the new page object, whatever the page I have opened, that page properties are matching with the existing page object which is there in the repository. If the properties are same, then the new object will be added to the same page, whatever the page is already there in the repository. But if the properties of that page are different, in repository there are some properties, and in the reality whatever the page I have opened, properties are varying, then it creates a new page object. Okay, when you select this option. So normally we need to select this option here. Say okay, go now, open object repository. Open object repository, you delete this, you don't need this anymore. Now add, I have selected second option, right? I can see it's adding under same page because properties are same. Here properties are not changed from login page to this page. Then after that you click on add employee. Then once you click on add employee, you will get first name, last name, all those objects. You get first name, you get last name, then you get location, and then you click on save button. That's it. Just some basic script that we will write. After that you go to logout, and then you may need to log out. Okay. Right. So first what you have to do, you need to click on BAM link. After that you need to click on add employee link, and then you need to enter first name, and then you need to enter last name, and then you need to enter you need to select location, and then you need to click on save button. Once after this, you need to click on welcome link, and then you need to click on logout. Okay, and after some time we need to close the browser. Close the browser. Then you can say set, first name you can say test, next you can say employee, then select, you can say Indian Development Center. I've written that. Okay. So assume we written some piece of code here. Then I will give some wait period between on. So wait of 10, wait of 5. We also will say wait of an hour. I use something called browser dot page. That's a synchronization that we say sync. Instead of using wait, I can give this. So I am executing that script. And it's being executed successfully. Fine. It's logged out and then it just closed. Fine. It's executed normally. Fine. Now assume that I'm just changing the object properties here. Some of the objects. But assume these are the values earlier. Here I am updating, but just assume that those were the properties when we added the objects. Okay. Some properties have been changed, but just assume like I have not changed the property values. When I added the objects, that's how the property values were. Now I got a new release. Then I started executing the scripts in new release. Then, while executing the scripts, we realized that some of the objects are not being identified. The reason could be object properties have been changed. So we were using some object properties. When we added the objects to the repository, it had taken some properties. Then in the new release, they have changed the object property values. Right? Object property values have been changed. Then what we get? We get this kind of error message saying that so and so object cannot be identified. Now if there is only one object updated, then that is okay. I can just go to the repository now. I can update the object properties. But there is a possibility that this time more objects have been changed. So every time I cannot stop the execution, update the object properties, rerun the script again. I need to run many of the times in this case. But manually verifying every object, see which object is changed, which object is not changed, then it will be very difficult for us. So now what should I do? What should I do is, while the script is being executed, that time itself I should be able to update the property values. Whatever the properties have been changed, that time itself I should be able to update the property values. Getting what I am saying here? So instead of getting the error, it should give me information saying that this object is not being identified because of some properties changed. Then it should ask me to update the object properties. If I update the properties, then I should be able to continue without restarting the execution. I should be able to continue with same execution. And if another object is not being identified, then again I should get the message saying that object is not identified. So what I have to do, what I should get is here during runtime only I should get the option to update the objects. Or in case if you say that no, if you don't want to update the object, what you can do during runtime, whenever any object is not identified, you perform that action manually and you add the comment in your script saying that okay, this object property have been changed and updated. Add some comment there and then you can continue. Once the script is completed, you can go to the comments and then you can update the properties accordingly. Getting what I am saying here? Then how can we do this? This is where there is something called maintenance run mode comes into the picture. Now I have run in normal mode and happened like that. We got the error. Now let us see maintenance run mode, how exactly it works. Now what I will do is run and click on maintenance run mode this time. Yeah, you can see that maintenance run mode cannot run in fast mode because you have to select normal mode there. Then only maintenance run mode works. So there is a dependency there. So if you want to run in maintenance run mode or update run mode, precondition is you have to select normal mode. But you can give delay time, but for us not required. I am just giving 0 milliseconds delay. Go to run and maintenance run. Oops, 1 minute. Let me close the browser. Just let me rerun it. I did not close the existing browser. Okay. Now this object doesn't get identified. Let's see what happens. Earlier we were getting the error message saying that this object was not identified. We had to stop the execution and then we had to update the object. But now let's see what happens. We are running in maintenance run mode now. Then see what is happening here. It is not giving me the message, error. Instead of that, what it is doing, okay, the step is failed because the object was not found. Then it will also show that what object is not identified. Say that object is webedit txt password, right? Then what it is doing is, it is asking two options here. Okay, you add a comment saying that add a to do comment before the step, so that you can fix later, or you can also point to the object so that it can automatically update the property. So whatever the object is not identified now, click on point and then click on the object, which object is not being identified there. So click on that and then say OK. Then you can see clearly it will show you saying okay, what is the original value in the repository, what is the new value in the application. Okay, so you can clearly see that what property has been changed. Then you can also choose the option saying okay, do you want to update the property according to the new value, or you want to keep the original value, just add a comment. Then when you want to update, then you can see you want to update HTML ID property with regular expression. You can see when I add the regular expression, RD is optional. Because something RD has come new, tomorrow again they may revert the changes. So when you make RD as optional, then if it is original value or new value, for both it will work, right? Then if you want to add a new object, so keep the existing object as txt password. But if you say if you want to add a new object, it will add one more object like txt password underscore 1. Then one more line will be generated automatically in the script. Okay, so now what I am saying is I am asking to update the property value with the regular expression. click on OK. Now you can see that step is executed and it is continuing. Click on PIM link, and again add employee link will not be identified. Properties for add employee also have been changed. Okay, again this time what I do is I will just perform this step manually. I will not update the object properties, but what I will do is, instead of adding or pointing the object and updating the properties, I will just add a comment here saying that, okay, add employee link properties have been changed. Please update the properties with new changes. Something like that. I will add a comment, click on OK, and then it will continue with the remaining line. Again, this is being changed. Okay, so that all thing. So during runtime, I'm not, my execution is not being interrupted here. I mean, I'm still able to continue with the execution. In case if any object is not being identified, it is giving the option which object is not, it is giving the information saying which object is not being identified. Then it is giving me options to update the properties during runtime itself, or add a new object instead of using existing object, add a new object, or add a comment. Perform that step manually so that you can continue and add a comment. Later you can review the comments and then you can update the scripts. Then what I am doing is, I am just saying fine here, click on this, and this time I am selecting add a new object. When I add a new object, then what happens is, you can see that one more line has been generated. Original step is like this: web list location, and it is adding a new object, something called a location underscore 2, and then same value has been selected here. Click on OK. Click on run and stop the execution. Once the execution is completed, it will clearly show one object property has been, for one object we have changed the property, we have added one comment, and we have added one new object. This is the maintenance run mode. When object properties have been changed in the new release and all, if not one object, if multiple object properties have been changed, okay, lot of objects have been changed, what you do before you run normally, first you run in maintenance run mode, and then you can see all the objects, what and all the objects have been impacted. Then you can update the properties, or you can add the comments. Later you can update the properties and all. Okay, this is to verify all the objects are properly being identified or not being identified. So in case if you get, as soon as you get a new release, and if you have doubts that, or if there is any impact on the existing objects, you realize that lot of existing objects have been changed. Then updating one by one may take lot of time. Verifying one by one object and updating may take lot of time. So if you run the script in maintenance run mode, it will clearly show you what object is not being identified, what properties have been changed and all. So if you want to add update an object property during the runtime itself, you can do that. Normally we don't do this. We add a comment and then we will continue. We perform that step manually, add the comment, and we will continue. The reason why we don't update, in the maintenance run mode directly, because maintenance run mode, if you update the object properties in maintenance run mode, that will update in local repository, not in the shared repository. If you have added that object, whatever the objects that you are dealing, those objects are there in shared repository, it cannot update directly in the shared repository. This is one of the drawback of using maintenance mode. Okay, so maintenance mode will deal with local repository only, will not deal with shared repository. Okay, always remember that. Now let me stop the execution, finish it, and then go back to the repository here. Go back to the repository and look at the objects whatever we have updated. You can see that there is one object added called location 2. Earlier we had only location. So now you can also see that location step is commented out. Okay, so new line has been added because we are choosing the step saying add a new object. So when it added a new object, since there is one object already there with the logical name location, then it added location 2 and then it generated new step there. And again look at the properties. For password we have changed the properties, and you can see password property has been updated with regular expression here. It will automatically do that. This is one of the use of maintenance run mode. Now for one step we have added the comment. So you can see that comment has been added. If you have added more comments, to do comments, like there are 10-15 objects have been changed, you have added 10-15 comments for all the steps, then how can you know what are all the comments you have added in one shot? Any idea? You have added 10-15 to do comments. Okay, then it will be difficult. There are a lot of lines written. It will be very difficult for me to locate those comments in one shot because I have added some other comments also, but I want to find out only to do comments. That is called to do comment. That means the activity that need to be performed. We call it as to do. Any idea how can you locate all those comments once? We have discussed about this already. No. There is one pane in UFT that's called tasks. I think I have explained this already. So what is meant by tasks? What is the use of tasks pane? We have written, right? We have added one comment, right? We have added one comment. That comment will be added as to do comment automatically. Okay. So what you can do, normally what we do is when the object properties have been changed and all, we run in the maintenance run mode. Then when we realize that some of the object properties have been changed, whatever the object properties have been changed, we will add a to do comment there, because we use shared repository. When we use shared repository, then we don't update it in local. We add a to do comment. For time being we perform that step manually and we will continue. Okay, we will continue. Then when we continue, that object property and all will not be updated because we added the comment. So we will continue till the end. Once the execution is completed, we will look at the to do panes and then we will look at the tasks pane here, and then we will see all the activities that we have written here. Then we update the shared repository accordingly. Let's see now how exactly we do that. Now what I am doing is, I am moving all these objects to the shared repository. Then I will say shared rep.tsr. So I selected the option here, export and replace local objects. Then open object repository manager here. Open that repository. Whatever the repository that we have selected. Open window is not coming. Why? Where did we do that? D samples is it? No. See here. See samples. There is another way if it is not opening here. View Solution Explorer. This shared repository has been associated, right? Just just click on open repository. It will open in repository manager. Okay, so click on enable editing. Now in the shared repository I am updating, okay, txt password. So now I am updating in shared repository. This one object I deleted, one object property I have updated, and maybe you can update with more properties. This object property also are not updated. So two objects properties were changed, one object is missing. Then what you do is now run in maintenance run mode. So objects are in shared repository now, not in local repository. This object is not being identified now, txt password, those properties are being changed. Now you can see here, so it's saying that object properties have been changed, or that object is not being identified. Then what I'll do is I'll just click on point and then I will add the object here. Okay, this is old value and this is new value. Then I'm just adding, say, use regular expression or directly add the property value or anything, that's okay. So now where that object was in the shared repository, right? That object is in the shared repository. Let's see now whether that object is updated in shared repository or local repository. Let it complete the execution. Add employee again, got changed here. Wait for some time because it's trying to locate that object. Then again find that add employee object and click on OK. So I am not chosen for regular expression here. Okay, this object is missing, and it says I'm just adding the object and update it. Okay, so now two objects were updated and one object added to the repository. Okay, so now open the object in object repository manager. That shared repository I am opening for password. Is it updated? No. It's not updated in shared repository. Now open the object repository window, and this is where this add employee is object added to the local repository, but that object is supposed to be in shared repository. It's supposed to update in shared repository, but it's not updated. So this is the drawback of maintenance run mode. When you update the objects, when some object properties were changed, or when the object is not identified, if you update the object in maintenance mode, then that object will be updated in local repository. Even though you are using shared repository, that object will be added to the local and then update it. Okay, so then again you have to do the same changes in shared repository. Instead of that, we just add a comment and then we will continue. So whatever the objects were missed out, were based on the comments, we'll open the repository manager, we update the properties accordingly. That's it. Okay, so this is what maintenance run mode means for. So when we use that, in case if the objects are not being identified, if the object properties have been changed, more objects, then we can go for maintenance run mode. Okay, this is one. What is update run mode now? This is maintenance run mode. Update run mode is not like when the object properties have been changed or objects are not being identified. Now see, what we have done is, first we did the object identification setting. We added some properties for every object to be taken. Then we added those objects to the repository, and then we started execution. In case if the object, when we run in maintenance run mode, in case if the object was not identified, it will clearly show that which property has been changed, what was the old value, what is the new value, and all, right? Okay, so now what we have done is, what we need to do is, we just realized that some of the objects are having some extra properties, or just say like this, I have some object identification setting already done. So for each object I have selected some properties here, right? And according to the properties that I have selected here, same properties added to the repository. After adding the objects to the repository, then we realized that we have done some wrong identification settings. We have done some wrong identification settings. Then what you have to do is, after that, I just after adding the objects to the repository, I came to the object identification window again. Again, I am doing some setting here. For link, I don't want HTML tag. I want only text property. So I am doing some object identification setting change here. So earlier I have done some object identification settings, like for link 2 properties, edit field 3 properties, button 3 properties, or for some other objects 2 or 3 properties I have selected that. Then when I added the objects to the repository, properties were taken based on the object identification settings, that whatever I did. After adding the objects to the repository, then I realized that I need to change the object identification settings again. Now whatever the changes that you do, identification settings that you do, that will be only for the new objects. Existing objects will not be impacted with the changes what you are doing here. Getting what I am saying here? So you have done some object identification settings initially, then you added the objects to the repository. When you added the objects to the repository, properties were taken according to the settings. After adding the objects to the repository, again you realized that you have to do some setting changes. Then you came to the object identification window, and then you have done some changes here. So after doing this changes, then if you go back to the repository again, you will be able to see only old properties and values, because the changes what you are doing now, that will be impacted only for the new objects which you are going to add from now, not for old objects which are already added. Okay, then what you have to do now is, you need to update according to the new identification setting. You have to update existing objects also. But if you go one by one object, it will take lot of time. It will take lot of time again. Then what should I do here? So for link, I have got earlier 2 properties were there. I am using only 1 property now. I removed 1 property. Then for browser, there was no property earlier. Now I want to add name property. Earlier no property was being used, only creation time was being used. Now name property should be added. For web edit, HTML ID and HTML tag, I don't want HTML tag, only HTML ID. So I have done some object identification setting and click on OK. Now if you go to the object repository or repository manager, wherever those objects are, if you see orange HRM, there was no name taken. I have done that identification setting, but it has not taken because this object is already there in the repository. Okay. So now if you take the link, how many properties? 2 properties are there, but I removed HTML tag in the identification window, but it is not impacted here. But when I add a new link now, it will take only 1 property according to the new change. But I want to make that setting impacted on existing objects also. In this case, what you do is, instead of running normally, run with update run mode. Then you select the option. If you have checkpoint updates, you can also do that. Or if you have active screen images, that means earlier when you recorded, one active screen will be generated. After that, there could be some change in the screen. So that if you want to update the active screen with the latest snapshot of the application, you can do that. This is one of the interview question. one of the interview question is, okay, I have added the active screen image to the active screen. Later some new objects have been introduced in the application, so new active screen has to be displayed with new objects. Then you can run in update run mode. Then right now we are not using any active screen, or we are not using any checkpoints or anything. So what I am saying, update the test object description.
Active screen okay, recording mode.
Only recording, yeah. If you have done recording, then it will come, otherwise it won't come. So that's the reason I am selected. We have not done the recording. Let's see now. Okay, so the script has been executed. It's clicked on OK button. Okay, fine. Now open object repository. So now you can see, earlier name was not there, name is added according to the new identification setting. Then you can see all the objects have been added to the local repository and link. Earlier two properties were there, only one property now, because new identification setting has got only one property selected there. So this is what update run mode. So what is the update run mode? If you have done any object identification setting after adding the objects, if you want to make that impact on the existing objects also after doing identification setting, if you want to make the existing objects also impacted with the new identification settings, then you can use update run mode. So this we will use only when you have done object identification settings. Setting changes. So this is maintenance run mode, this is update run mode, and normal and fast mode. So all these are some debugging options again. Update run mode may not come under debugging, but maintenance run mode will come under debugging technique, because there you are checking for the objects. See, all the objects are being properly identified, or the objects are not being identified. If not being identified, then what is the change? Okay, so some important thing. But in the reality, we don't use update run mode. The reason why we don't use, because those objects will be added to the local repository, whatever the objects are updating. Why these buttons are not updated? Because I did not do any identification setting change for web button. That's the reason it did not do any change for that. So it remain in shared repository. Whatever the objects it is changing, that it will add that object to the local repository, and then it will change it. So all the objects again will come into the local repository. Okay, fine. We'll stop here today.